Jin Chu, who are going to talk about brand zodiac approach. Sami has been working in qualitative depth psychological market research for 12 years. She lives in Beijing and in Melbourne, speaking Mandarin, Cantonese, and Japanese. She's got a degree in psychology and criminology, a diploma in counseling. Anybody under stress, speak to her at lunchtime. And her main focus is now on China. And she's also a therapist in Beijing. Jin is a research consultant, member of the user experience team at a leading global research organization in the field of experience research. And her academic background is also in psychology and especially human factors.
Thank you very much for still staying here, not going to lunch. We really appreciate the beginning of the panel discussion. I think it's a good starting point for us to discuss our topic today. Because I think previously it was just discussing about how qualitative study and quantitative study can be combined and used together. And we are a very good case of that as well. And also the cultural influences on how one can conduct research quantitatively and qualitatively in a big country like China at this point of time. As you can see, a lot of Western brands are slowly getting into China market, but people are still somehow quite unfamiliar with the brands. They're not as experienced as the Westerners. They don't know much about the brand essence. It's really a new idea for them. However, when decoding the meaning of brands, we tend to have two sets of signs that refer to. Just like everybody else internationally, we recognize all these logos like Chanel or BMW or VW. And in China, we have a very specific Chinese signs that actually have the implicit translations which deliver a very specific meanings in a Chinese society. Here, Chanel means a girl who smells good, and Gucci means ancient and unique. So all these names in the West has been translated that are very special to Chinese consumers. What we found out is that for China, we tend to apply the mythology of zodiacs because it's more precise and culturally enrooted, and we are very familiar with these ideas. It's no news to us. And as you can see from these particular slides, zodiac signs are often part of the Chinese everyday life. You can find Chinese zodiac on a credit card, even the movie they make by Jackie Chan, and also on combs or mugs. It's everywhere. Now we are in the year of the sheep. Believe it or not, Chinese government are actually encouraging people to have more babies because sheep years is not exactly a good years for in the mind of a lot of Chinese consumers. They don't want their babies to be the sheep. And also, Chinese zodiac is also part of the Chinese marketing and advertising campaign. Here, 马到功成, which in Chinese means achieving success as a racing horse. Now, people may ask, what are the zodiac signs? I'm sure that we have a lot of Chinese people here, so they're familiar with that. But with someone who are not very familiar with it, a zodiac sign actually describes a set of certain attributes of character. For instance, a rabbit. It stands for attributes like diplomatic, polite, hidden ambitions, and elegant. And our finding is that Chinese consumers unconsciously apply all these attributes to a brand as a first step to get closer to the brand. For instance, they see a lot of rabbit attributes in the Dove soap. I have to apologize for that because we don't have a specific symbol for Dove, except sometimes we eat them. And so why do Chinese people unconsciously apply the zodiac to brands? Of course, that's a question. Because as I previously mentioned before, brands are a very new concept in the Chinese market. Therefore, we tend to take the character system that is a mean as orientation, which we are very familiar over the 1,000 years. And as a result, hang on, sorry. And as the result, the zodiac in China can be actually regarded as the hidden pattern which drives most brand perceptions. And of course, the zodiac is not about the good stuff. And we also have a very negative side, like all the characters have a dark side. And for example, the snake. The snake has, although it's called a little dragon, but we do find that the characteristic of the snake has an intentional and jealous, inconsistent nature. So when we have conducted the interviews, and the Prada respondents actually revealed to us that the brand itself appears rather mysterious and distancing. The color that the brand communication has been used for Prada, the black, actually stands for aloofness and bad luck. Although I'm wearing black today, hey, but I have a little bit of gold. So now, how do we practically apply the zodiac methodology, which reach beyond the normal descriptive interview levels? Well, we approach a deep unconscious level by letting the brand speak through zodiac and its zodiac. So now, my partner, Jing, she will be taking up from here, and then she will talk a bit more about a quantitative study that based on this zodiac study.
Thank you, Sami. And let me introduce the brand react first briefly. And it's a research tool and provide us implicit insight of to understand how consumers understand the brands. And the interface of the test looks like the picture at the corner. And to our case study, we also integrate the explicit part, like we use the net promote score and semantic differential test. And together with Zodiac, we can have a deeper insight, psychology insight, to understand the Western brand in China. And so the traditional explicit test always meet the difficulty when the researched brand is very similar to each other. Like I showed here, the data here can not talk a lot about what is the difference between the three Germany automobile brands. And that is also difficult when the participant didn't know the brand very well, just like the problem we met when we want to research the Western brand in China, because those kind of brands are just newly introduced to China, so the Chinese consumer is not know it very well. Instead, the implicit test can provide us a more deeper understanding, like which kind of association between the brands and selected characters and descriptions is built. Like we chose Zodiac as characters when we want to understand the consumer behaviors in China better. Yes, the interface of brand react is probably familiar to you already because it appears for several times. And let me make an official introduction of it. Let we see that at the middle of the screen will be a logo, and under the logo will all the selected characters and descriptions show up randomly, and the participant is asked to decide if the description suitable for the logo, yes or no, and as quick as possible. And depends on how quick they say yes or no, they will, the logo will get a score for each items, each descriptions. lowest 0, highest 100. And for example, the participants say yes very quick, that makes the score very high, just like the quick no means an extremely low score. And the slow yes, slow no stand in the middle. And as all we know that mobile devices is very popular nowadays, and it plays a very significant role in China, in the normal people's daily life. And that is a big improvement for us to develop a mobile device capable brand react applications. It allows us to assess more consumers and more about their normal lives, daily lives. Yes, so now I would like to talk about our case study, the combination with brand react and zodiac. And the study is in China with 400 Chinese people, participants, and each survey lasted about 20 to 25 minutes. And most of the participants are young people, and only 30% of them are older than 40 years old. And 40% are female, 60% are male. Half of the participants using mobile device to answer the questionnaires. The other half will use like a desktop or laptop, desktop devices like laptop, yes, sorry. And 1/3 of all the participants will buy a new car in 2 years. So they are making decisions about which car to choose. And the other 2/3 of them had already bought a car, but within 2 years. That make them possible to remember why and how they make the decisions. And 8 car models is researched in this case study, and Mini Cooper, Mercedes Smart, Volkswagen Beetles are the 3 car models that we will talk more about today. And like I just mentioned earlier, that about the difficulty that explicit tests meet. We also have this problem in our case study. The semantic differential test didn't tell us a lot about how different is the 8 car models in Chinese consumers' mind. And the standard deviation of this explicit part shows that the value is quite low. Excuse me? Okay, thank you. Okay, the standard deviation of the explicit part is quite low. That means all the ratings stayed close to each other around the mean value. And instead, in the explicit part, the standard deviation value is 3 times higher than the explicit part. That means the rating here by implicit part is spread out in a wider range of values. So that is why we chose this. And I will pass in.
Okay, now coming back to the qualitative research findings. So what we find in China is that the VW Beetles come across as rather well-protected car. And this mindset is very much reflected by the special design of the Beetle. And it's considered rather feminine. And also, especially look at the very smooth design round lines. And the Beetle actually makes the brand promise that also a wealthy person can actually display a rather luxury status, free and from mindset, without aggressively competing and demanding control. So the brand perception is determined by the pig zodiac. And the pigs are the selected lucky ones because it's at the end of the 12 zodiacs, and they don't have to really worry about the future, and they can enjoy a very comfortable life. Good news for the pig. And the pig zodiac sign also has positive attributes such as a giving and caring nature, and they care about their friends, are very supportive to their family. So now, however, the shadow side of the pig, that's the dark side of the pig, that is because they're so comfortable and they're so given with all these, blessed, like wealth and health, so they can come across a little bit detached and aloof because they take things for granted. They don't work particularly hard, and so it can be a little bit lazy if you think about it.
Yes, and in the case study with the implicit test, first of all, we can confirm that the association between the light side of new beetles and pigs is very strong with a high score. But we found out that by the saddle value, instead of pigs, the beetles show some characters of the zodiac snake, but the score from snake is a little bit lower than the pigs. That means the relationship between pig and beetles is stronger than snake.
All right, now coming to our British Mini Cooper. And the research finding from the qualitative in-depth research is that the Mini is liked for its refined British style, which hints at a knowledgeable Western individualistic orientation. So the Mini makes the psychological brand promise to the drivers to be someone who can be very assertive, expressive, and charming individualistic person, that with a touch of unconventional style. So, and this person is somehow who knows how to enjoy his or her materialistic life success, and the perception is actually quite driven by the zodiac of rat. People born in this year, the rat people, they are believed to become very wealthy, independent, they're intelligent, charming, curious, and also they know how to enjoy life. However, the rat somehow itself actually plays a counterpart of the hardworking ox. And there's a story in the myth that the rat is actually sitting on top of the ox. The reason why it comes as the first of the zodiac is because when they're approaching the line, the rat jumps off and takes the advantage. So don't be surprised that it reflects the fact that Mini Cooper drivers often are the spoiled children of the hardworking ox parents who often give the car as the gift to them.
Yes, and like before, we can first of all confirm that the association between Mini Cooper to the zodiac sign red, both on light side and shadow side, is very strong. It's kind of strong. But through this implicit test, we found out that not only red, but also horse is related to the light side of Mini Cooper. And the score of red and horse is both very high, means the relationship, they are both linked very strong to the Mini Cooper.
Okay, coming to our last car model, the Smart. It actually represents a lot of value which are from the negative side of the monkey. And it is viewed as a smart opportunist and also mischievous rule breakers. They break the rule, but you don't hate them. So it attracts a lot of people who have this mentality of get up and go and no strings attached. So instead of focusing on families and others, they tend to focus a lot on themselves. And the questions is always on their mind, so how can I get to one place without worrying about traffic, without worrying about parking slot? So don't be surprised that you see a Smart parking in a very weird position, but you still find it's kind of cute.
And same like Mini Cooper, we can confirm both on light and shadow side, the relationship, the association between smart and the zodiac monkey. But we can also find here that the red also, smart also shows some characters at like a red, and the score of red is even higher than monkey. That means the association between smart, light side of smart is strong, is very strong related to red. And yes, let me give you a short summarize. First of all, the zodiac system can provide us a very deep and psychological insight of the Western brand image in China. And together with brand react, we can have some implicit understanding about how different is brand image in China. The implicit measurement tell us what the explicit part cannot. And at the end, the mobile application works very well and can provide, allow us to access to more consumers and more about the daily lives, which is very important to us. And at the end, I would like to give you an overview about the association between the car brands and zodiac signs. Like the light side of BMW reminds the participant of tiger, and the shadow side of Buick, for example, remind people about ox.
So now coming to the final page of before lunch, and just let's finish a quick outlook. So the zodiac are actually not only good for branding and positioning research, but also for target group research and positioning research, and also communication research. So we hope that you could get inspired by our journey through the Chinese market, and especially the zodiac approach that is very specific to the Chinese market. And I hope that it might be a great inspiration for you. So if you like this presentation and you want to discuss more with us, please feel free to approach us afterwards. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good lunch.
Turn it on. Wonderful. No snake for lunch, unfortunately. It's my year this year, the year of the snake. The year of the sheep is my year. So I'm looking forward to it. First class. A couple of questions, I think, and then we dash off for the stop the malnutrition. Yes, one over there.
I have a question regarding how much unconscious bias people place in these researches regarding their own zodiac. Me being a snake and always being on the shadow side of things. So do people, based on their own yearly zodiac, react differently in terms of how they rate these zodiac signs and associations, more strongly on the brighter side or on the shadow side? And how did you work that into the interpretation?
Basically, we don't let when we do the qualitative research, they have a selection of the cards, but we don't let the respondents know which selection of the cards or group of the words that belong to which one. So they just randomly select the vocabularies in a set that they find it more resonate to their impression of the brand. So that will just keep the bias off.
What is the standard deviation of this type of methodology approximately? And the second is, have this kind of study has been validated? Yeah. The zodiac study has that been validated. If you do this study again, will the results be similar, at least to some extent?
Sorry, I think we both missed the first question, but to answer the second question first, is that this research study is actually very recent, just beginning of this year. So if we want to do a validation, we probably have to wait for a couple months to do the validation again, the brand react or the tracking.
Okay, the first question is very simple. I mean, you had 400 subjects, panelists. So if you look at the data for each individual and you compute the standard deviation by each brand, what is the standard deviation approximately? I want to get like kind of an error bar on these results.
Yes, you mean the implicit. Can I go back to that slide? No. I still can't quite understand your question. The question is about the difference between this explicit part and implicit part, or something else?
The zodiac, when you are measuring how quickly people are answering.
Yeah, by the implicit part with brand react, we measure the result with reaction time, but with the explicit part, we just ask, there's 5 points, like to the -2 to +2, and between the two descriptions, which is opposite to each other, and at which point you think is suitable for this brand. Do you understand?
Continue enjoying lunch.